So, hey, y'all, hey, and welcome back to another session with Meditations with Marini. And this morning is going to be brief because I want to actually come back and expound on this a little bit later. But I want to talk to you about, well, first of all, before I start talking, I want to tell you that this is going to be about accountability and it's going to be speaking from a parental perspective. So, for those of you that know my channel or you're familiar with it, my channel is in reference to relationships, mostly for women, men, talking about marriage and relationships, marriage, divorce, and things of that sort. But I know that relationships are important to me. And so today, this particular video is going to be about parental relationships, a parental circumstance. And so if you know anybody that could benefit from parenting advice, I would love for you to click like now. I would love for you to share it with a friend, and I would love for you to subscribe. So this morning I was talking with my son, and he is a I'm sorry, he's a junior in high school, and he is a fairly good baseball player. And he and I have been talking about some things, and so I want to mention to parents that when you have children that are in sports and things of that sort, it's great for them to be in sports, but assuring that they are a student athlete is most important. And with me being in education, for those who have followed my channel, and I'm sorry guys, as soon as I started talking, my throat gets scratchy. And I don't typically edit my videos, so I apologize for that. But for those of you that have been following me, you may know that I am a former educator, and I also have worked and served in the higher ed atmosphere, which means that I have a pretty vast knowledge of, one, what it takes to get through school for academics, and then secondly, I understand what colleges are looking for. And so my son and I were having a conversation and we were having a conversation in reference to, there have been some transition that has happened with him over the past couple of months, and those transitions affected me. They made an impact on my life, what my daily life looks like, what my hours of availability look like. And you know, as a parent, you have to just make the adjustment. But I want to key in on the fact that my son is getting ready to benefit from a summer program for baseball that I had not intended on, one, financially having him to participate in from me, and then two, for him to have the availability for the transportation and even just the travel that is going to be involved in this. So to kind of give a little background, my son plays travel baseball. He always has. Maybe he's 16 now, and he's probably been playing travel since he was about, I would say 8 or 9. And you know, if you have any knowledge of what travel baseball or what like AAU basketball looks like that's a very involved life. It's very intense. There's a lot of hours that is spent with those students that participate in those sports. But my son had some assignments that he needed to go back and complete. And this is where I want to talk about parental accountability. He had some assignments that he needed to go back and complete. And I will say, as an educator and as a parent that operates in this, I am extremely understanding when it comes to during the season, because during the season it is difficult. It is long days and long nights. And you know, oftentimes students will kind of fall behind. So as an educator, I made provisions for my students to make sure they made up assignments. So as his mother, and also my son has a exceptionality, so I assured that he got the resources that he needed in order to turn in some assignments that he had missed. Now, let's just say this child can probably pull off a B average without even trying. He could pull off a high C, B average without putting in any effort. But that's not good, because sometimes students who are easy to academically incline and move up, they don't often be sometimes the harder workers. And so he and I had a conversation in reference to him playing on this baseball team and him going to participate. And this morning, based upon some things that he had not done that I asked him to do, I expressed to him that I was going to be willing to sacrificially lose the $500 that I just paid this week for him to join this particular program. And I told him that I would give the coach a call this morning, which I'm going to call him as soon as I finish with this video. And I'm going to let the coach know that he has not completed the task that I have asked him to do. And as a sacrificial offering to him not doing what I've asked him to do, I am going to allow myself to lose that $500. I want y'all to let that set in. So if I'm paying $500, that tells you that the program obviously is something else, because that was just the down payment. That was just the initial component to get his uniform. That was just to make sure that he got registered for the tournaments. So what I'm saying to you is, as a parent, it is your responsibility to assure that your child is accountable. I explained to my son that this is not a requirement, but it is a desire. Now, let me explain something to you. When you talk about travel ball and you talk about things of that sort, if you have a child that's fairly good in those sports, the investment that I would make for this summer program, and let me tell you why I chose to make the investment. I chose to make the investment because the program that he will be participating in, it will place him in a position where about 40 schools over the summer are going to be able to see his skill set. So I could not possibly travel to 40 schools based on the amount that I'm going to pay for this program. I couldn't use it. It would cost me more in hotels and gas and maintenance on my vehicle to be able to do what we're going to be able to do through him participating in this program. However, my son has not done the portion that he needs to do as far as his work in the classroom. I asked him to do something. I gave him a list to help him because of his exceptionality. He does operate better with a list and a checklist and all of those things. I understand that. But what I am saying to you as a parent is that you cannot reinforce bad behavior. You cannot reinforce when children do not do what you ask them to do. And so as a parent, what I need for you to understand as we talk about relationships and we talk about marriages that did not work, we talk about divorces where people had deceitful thought processes and they did not follow through on their word. What we are teaching our children when we train them and when we teach them and when we give them things is we are either reinforcing bad behavior or we are having them to be accountable for good behavior. I want you to let that sink in. I advise my son that I will include his coach because I want the coach to be aware, because the coach is a part of the team and the process that will help me to get the job done. That doesn't mean that the coach is going to call him and start fussing, but guess what? That coach wants him on this team, which means that he has an investment in him being on the team and participating in this program for the summer. And what I want to share with you all, based upon my channel being about relationships, is it starts when we are young. The core of who I am is what was put in me when my parents taught me certain things. It is what was enforced in me when my parents told me what I should and should not do. We must assure that the generation that we are bringing forth, and as I shared with my son, I didn't say this part to him, but I say this to my boys all the time. I'm not raising you guys just to be my son forever. I am thinking about the fact that at some point you are going to be responsible for somebody's daughter. And if I reinforce bad behavior or him not following through on his word, which he told me, Mom, I'll get those assignments done when the season is over like you asked, he has not done it. So if I pay for him to participate in this program, which is what he really wants to do, then I am reinforcing the fact that he did not have to do the assignments that he promised that he was going to do. Well, what do you think happens with that? he then carries that over into his adult life, and he will then do that to somebody's daughter because he made a promise, but he wasn't required to keep it. He wasn't, there was no accountability that was in place that said that if you don't do this, you don't get that. If you do this, you get that. And guess what? In this world that we live in, we have so many people now that are mismatched with those reinforcements that happened when they were younger, and now they feel as though now that they are adults that they are entitled to those things even though they don't do the work or have the accountability for it. No. So as a parent, what I am saying to you is you might need to look at what areas in your life do you need to maybe tighten up on it. Maybe you, isn't that there's a song, tighten up on that, something. I got to think about that. I don't know if that was a good song to use for my channel, but I'm a music lover, so I love all types of music, not just gospel. But I'm saying to you that sometimes as parents, we have to hold our children accountable. And we have to hold, well, I won't say sometimes, all the time we have to hold them accountable. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't yell, I didn't scream. We were driving in, I was driving in this morning. I've been letting him drive because I'm trying to get him accustomed to the traffic in the mornings. But I was driving in and I told him, I said, I'm not going to yell, I'm not going to scream. I just want you to know that in 2 weeks when that team get ready to pack up and go out of town for that game, you might not be in the car with them. And at the end of it, it's his decision to make. And I think that's where, when I look at myself and the maturity that I feel that I have gained, I used to be one that I wanted to make people make a decision about certain things. I have learned to allow people to make their own decision. I have learned to accept people for who they are. When people show me who they are, I accept them. And I do that because I want people to accept me for who I am. I want people to love me for who I am, but I also want to be the best version of me that I can be. So anyone that is around me that can give me positive feedback, they can give me corrective criticism, they can help me to become a better Marini, I want to be that. And so, and now you do have to have a trust factor in place with that. And you have to have people that you know that you trust that are speaking into your life, not because they're trying to control or anything of that sort, but they're actually trying to say, hey, baby, I think that this could be better. Or, sweetie, do this over here like this because this is this way. And I'm saying that because my boys are not accustomed to a lot of hollering and screaming. Now, I have done that when they were younger and they get on my nerves and I didn't ask them 1,000 times and I'm stressed out about something. So I don't want to make it seem like it's been like no perfect little situation for them throughout their life. They have seen me upset. But for them, it would be very rare for them to then choose a woman in their life that is very chaotic, that brings a lot of discord, who argues a lot, because they haven't experienced that. That's not the life that we live at my home. And because that is not the life that we live, I mean, I remember one time my oldest son was dating a young lady and they argued all the time. And, you know, I think he liked it because of the passion that it brought. But I think that eventually, like, you know, they're not dating anymore. And she's a good young lady. But just that combativeness was not going to be something that he could do and live with for a long time. And so I don't know why that part came out, but somebody obviously needed that for their conversation or relationship. Maybe that's for your teenage or your young adult son. But I want to say that as parents, we are responsible for holding our children accountable. And I will tell you that I'm not worried. I know my son is going to do the assignments because not only did I tell him that, you know, that's going to affect your baseball, but I'm going to take your phone. And so, you know, if you can't do what I ask you to do, I can't pay bills that I really don't have to have. I can't pay for tournaments and things of that sort, extracurricular activities that you don't necessarily have to have. There are things that you need, like shelter and food and water, and you know, you need those things, but all these other things are just extra. And so I think that as a generation, we have created an atmosphere where our children feel so entitled. I think that my age group, I would say people between the ages of 40 and maybe not even 40, maybe 45 to 60, 65, we created an entitled group of people that other people that before us had to work by the sweat of their brow. They had to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. If you look at my video that goes back and talks about my parents, my daddy could not read and write, but that man worked hard every day. Every day I saw him get up and put on that uniform and go to do what he needed to do to feed his family. And so, no, I cannot allow my child who didn't get to meet my dad and see the work ethic that he had and the work ethic that he put in me not be prevalent in my child, because I have created an atmosphere for him to feel like he's entitled. And so, no, we can't do that, not over here. And my kids have to work for everything. My sister said to me the other day, she said, I gave your boys some money because I said, you just had them working all the time. You're right. They're going to cut the grass. They're going to clean the house. They're going to wash the dishes. They're going to sweep the floor. They're going to vacuum. Yes, because if I'm paying the mortgage, they're going to do that. Now, when they start having to pay the mortgage, then you just a tenant that's in the house, and I'm renting you a room, but I'm going to give you a contract. I give those out in my house for real. I'm going to give you a rental contract, and that rental contract is going to state what you have to do and what you don't have to do. And in that contract, I'm going to say that if you don't want to cut the grass and you don't want to assist with these things right here, then you pay this amount during that time period for me to be able to make sure that that's taken care of. I run it just like I run my rental properties. And some parents may say, what? She does that? But you are not helping your children when you have them doing things such as living in your house and you don't charge them anything to live there. That is not assisting them. Sometimes we say, oh, we're just helping them get ahead. No, we're not. What we are doing is not building the muscle that they need in order to then know how to live on their own. So the accountability is what we were talking about this morning. Accountability, making sure that as parents, you are being a parent and not a friend. Make sure that you are doing what you need to do to assure that your child is capable of being in relationships. And I'm not just talking about love relationships, even friendships outside of your home. Sometimes friendships are destroyed because friends take advantage of other friends. And that's not a good component, but that starts within the home. So just know that I'll probably come back and let y'all know that that boy did all those assignments. He got them all done because he wanted to play in this game. And when I said that, I said, I didn't say anything about it. And then when he got out the car, I said, I love you, right? He said, I love you too, Mom. And then I kissed him just like I always do. And he kissed me back. I said, give me my kiss back. And then he got on out the car. But I want him to know he's better than what I could allow him to be without doing the assignments. Yes, he could get away with probably pulling out a B in the class, but why take a B when you could get an A? And why take a C when you could get a B? I don't understand the concept. So in the end, parents, know that you need to make sure that your children are being held accountable. And sometimes as parents, it's difficult to do that because it hurts us to hold our children accountable. We want them to like us, but pray first. Keep God in the forefront of the relationship, and then let it just fall where it may. The Bible says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Everything that my parents put in me, I'm still pulling on that right now. I'm using those tools. All those times going to church, being in BTU, singing in the choir, going to the youth retreats, all that stuff that my parents did, I didn't understand it then, but I'm appreciative for it now. And so this morning, if you don't get anything else out of this message, just know that you need to be accountable to your children, just like you are accountable to yourself. And you need to make sure that you are pouring into them and imparting into them what they need in order to be productive and viable adults in the future. So if you don't do anything else, what do I need you guys to do? I need for you to like this video. I need for you to share it with a friend. And I need for you to subscribe. Have a wonderful day. I gotta stop this video here. I'm gonna trim that.